All right. Well, we're back here trying to make it through the Civil War unit here. Part one, we finished up with part one um, over on the in the Eastern Theater. So we're gonna move to a different part of the country now. The war is essentially operating in two theaters: the Eastern Theater, which is east of the Appalachian Mountains, between the Appalachian Mountains and the coast, the Atlantic seaboard, and and by the way, much of that fighting going on in Virginia, most of the fighting in the war taking place in the South. And then we've got the Western Theater, which is the territory, primarily the territory between the Appalachian Mountains and the Mississippi River. So, not what we would think of as the far west today, but certainly the Western Theater here in the Civil War. Um, this is the part of the war, or this is the part of the unit that's going to get us where we're going to introduce Ulysses S. Grant. Okay, Ulysses S. Grant is not in overall command in the Western Theater. That would fall to Henry Halleck. He's the Major General of the Western Theater. However, U.S. Grant is becoming the most successful general uh, in the West. He's had a little bit of success in some minor battles before February 1862, where we're going to pick up today. And so Henry Halleck, over the course of the war, will have kind of a strained relationship with Grant. Some would suggest it's due to jealousy over the success that Grant is having, and the notoriety that'll come with it. But we'll continue to see kind of this struggle between the two. Well, Grant, the two objectives here, I should say the main objectives in the West for the Union is going to be, and Grant will spearhead this, will be to gain access and control of the major modes of transportation for the Confederacy, railways, railroads, and in particular towns like Corinth, Mississippi, which is a major railroad hub, and also to gain control of the Mississippi River, so that they can cut the Confederacy in half, separate that area west of the Mississippi from that area east of the Mississippi. That's a huge point. We'll remember also that that was a major component of Winfield Scott's original plan for the war, the Anaconda Plan. So, in an effort to start this campaign to the south, Grant has his eyes set on two Confederate forts, one on the Tennessee River, Fort Henry, and the other on the Cumberland River, Fort Donelson. These are going to be two battles that take place relatively rapidly, or in quick succession. You've got Fort Henry, you'll see right here, very close by land to Fort Donelson in the northern part of Tennessee. So Grant's going to move south. He's going to make quick work of Fort Henry on February 6th. The fort is poorly defended. It's in a low-lying area. Much of the fort will be underwater during this battle, and so it's quickly conquered. Those that aren't taken prisoner or become casualties will retreat to the safety of Fort Donelson. Um, Grant will leave the Tennessee, take his forces overland to the short jaunt over to Fort Donelson, and lay siege on Fort Donelson. Takes a little longer for Fort Donelson to fall. It's in a better location. It's more easily defended. However, it won't be long before the command structure within Fort Donelson will decide that their chances of any kind of success here are very limited, and those many of those inside of Fort Donelson will be taken prisoner. Those that are not and are able to retreat will head south, headed for the area around Corinth, Mississippi. That's where, after the campaigns of the battles of Fort Henry and Fort Donelson, that's where the Confederate armies will make their stand. Okay, under Albert Sidney Johnston, the command of Albert Sidney Johnston. Looking to continue his move to the south, Grant will continue to make his way down the Tennessee River. Henry Halleck, sometimes charged with being overly cautious, will instruct Grant to not continue all the way to Corinth, but instead to halt his move somewhere in the area of Pittsburgh Landing on the Tennessee. His idea is that in order to be more successful, Grant should add to his numbers an army under Don Carlos Buell. We talked about that quite a bit in class. But Don Carlos Buell, it's going to take some time for Don Carlos Buell to reach and to kind of rendezvous with Grant, and so Grant's instructed um, to make camp at Pittsburgh Landing on the Tennessee. Um, and that's going to bring us to really the first major battle in the Western Theater. Grant will, of course, stop at Pittsburgh Landing. It's about 20 miles short of Corinth. They set up camp. Grant's army will spread out throughout the area. Um, there's a small church. It's not a very populated area, but there is a small church near Pittsburgh Landing called Shiloh, and that's, of course, where we'll get the name of this battle. Um, in the meantime, you've got a Confederate army sitting back 20 miles to the south, under Albert Sidney Johnston, uh, fully expecting to have to defend Corinth from a frontal attack by the Union forces. That never comes, or at least it's not going to come for a while. So what do they do while the Union is encamped? Union forces are encamped at Pittsburgh Landing, and the Confederate forces are defending Corinth. Well, they'll keep an eye on each other, mainly through the use of cavalry units. Um, Peachy D. Beauregard, our buddy from out east, is now being sent to the west to kind of assist Albert Sidney Johnston, mostly because there was a really strained relationship between Beauregard and President Jefferson Davis. So in order to get Beauregard kind of out of his immediate view, Davis will send Beauregard out west. That leads Albert Sidney Johnston to start questioning, the command he has. Is Beauregard being sent out there to take his place, or what's the deal? Johnston soon learns that that's not the case, and will take on Beauregard as his second in command. Beauregard is a pretty accomplished military thinker. He'll devise a plan to go on the offensive and attack the Grant's army at Pittsburgh Landing. Once that plan is drawn up and plans are put in place, they'll launch that attack in the days leading up to April 6th. It's been a rainy period out in the Western Theater, and so the roads are muddy, very difficult moving an army, in particular artillery pieces, very difficult to move down muddy roads. However, the roads dry up just enough for Johnston's army to be able to make it to the outskirts, or to the area just outside of Union camps. On the morning of April 6th, the Confederates will launch their attack, a complete surprise attack on the unsuspecting Union forces. They'll catch many of them sitting around the campfire drinking their morning coffee. Some have not even awoken yet and are still kind of working their ways out of their tents. And that first day of battle at Shiloh will not go very well for the Union. From the very beginning, they'll endure wave after wave of Confederate attacks, pushing them further and further towards Pittsburgh Landing. Try to pull up a map here for you. Give me 1 second. So we see the situation here on the morning of the 6th. We can see Pittsburgh Landing is right in here. Shiloh Church, just so that we can kind of see where this battle will move on the first day. This is Shiloh Church. We can see that these blue lines, these are the Union positions, basically where they had been encamped. The attack will come in the direction of these red arrows. And as I said, it will be wave after wave of attack, both sides, with casualties piling up on both sides. But the Confederates will continue to push. They will continue to push throughout the day until the point in the afternoon where we have a situation that looks like this. Remember where Shiloh Church was in the first map. Here's Shiloh Church now. So all of these areas here that had been camps for Union forces have now been completely overrun. They've literally pushed the Union forces back into kind of a U-shaped defensive, just about ready to finish them off and push them into the river, as had been the original plan. We see Beauregard there instead of Johnston. What happens as we're approaching the afternoon, Johnston is really trying to finish this battle here on the first day. Really wants to make this a stunning victory, and is urging his forces on. And in doing so, he gets a little too close to the front, a lot closer than commanding generals usually like to be. He'll be on his horse. He'll sustain a gunshot or wound to his knee. He doesn't think at first that it's very serious, but within minutes he'll fall from the saddle, and it'll be soon realized that the musket ball severed his femoral artery, and it won't be very long from then, just a few minutes before Johnston is dead on the battlefield. Well, that leaves us with PGT Beauregard now in command, and inexplicably, at not long from I guess in the early evening, Beauregard calls a halt to the fighting. The guns fall silent along the Confederate lines, and what we have is Beauregard claiming victory before the job had been finished. He sends an order out congratulating his men on a glorious victory and says we'll finish them off in the morning. Well, of course, as the night wears on, and both sides are planning for the next day's operations, Don Carlos Buell's army will show up on the scene, and very close to doubling the size of Grant's forces that remain at the end of day one. So when day breaks on the 7th, the situation has completely changed. We'll now have a situation where the Union is in a position to push back the Confederate forces. In the end, the Confederate forces will be sent scurrying back in the direction of Corinth. It'll be up to this point the bloodiest battle, the most costly battle in American history. We'll be left with about 23,000 casualties, a significant number of those dead on the battlefield. Many more will die in the days following from infection, disease, and so forth. Many more will be taken from battle because of their injuries. But it's a great victory for U.S. Grant, and he really steals victory from the jaws of defeat. There will be lots of criticism of Grant following this battle, because of the high cost that was incurred. But at the end of the day, it will be the most significant success that the Union has enjoyed thus far in the war. All right, well, the next time I jump back in here in the next video, we'll move back on over to the east and pick up operations there. Until then, I'll see you in a few.